It's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So it's Saturday if you're watching this live. If you don't know me, my name's Vicky Marie. I am based in mainland Spain in Europe, but I am originally from the UK, from Manchester. I'm a Mancunian. And I have been living in Spain for the past more years than I care to remember, let's say. So I talk about true crime from UK, America, Australia, most sort of English-speaking countries, but Spain also, and Europe. So if you think that's the sort of thing you might be interested in, please subscribe. Don't forget to press notifications. So you get updates on any case we're covering or hear what's going on. I mean, I do old cases and sort of current news as well. So a bit of a mixture of everything. I do lives, which tend to be longer and a bit more waffly. If you don't like waffle, then you'd be better off waiting for the video to come out, because I normally then chop out all the waffle from a video and then just release the video, sort of a more potted version for people who don't like the waffle. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about in this video is this lady, Jill Dando. I think this case actually was probably an internationally infamous case, if you like. Jill Dando, she was a TV presenter. She was only 37 years old. She was engaged to be married. She was literally executed on her own doorstep in London in the UK. Somebody just went up to her, shot her in the head. She died instantly. And it set off this search, for the killer. And then this man, let's have a look at him, just so that I can tell you what we're going to be talking about. This man, Barry George, he was arrested for Jill Dando's murder. We're going to have a look at the reasons why in a moment. And he was found guilty. But later on, his conviction was found to be unsafe, and there was a retrial, and he was released. He was exonerated. Some people, including me, I'm not sure that he should have been exonerated. It's a very confusing case. The police are certainly saying they're not looking for anybody else. But of course, because this murder then is really unsolved, and Jill Dando, she was famous. She was like a household name in the UK. She was a wholesome sort of girl next door type. She had that Princess Diana look and vibe about her, didn't she? People liked her. She was very popular. And at the end of the day, she was brutally murdered on her own doorstep. And if Barry George is not guilty, then who is? Somebody has got away with this murder because somebody murdered her, that's for sure. So that's and the reason we're going to talk about it again today is Barry, who has tried to build a life for himself. He's went to live in Ireland, because this happened in London in the UK, and he lived just round the corner at the time from where Jill Dando was murdered. He's gone off to live in Ireland. There's been a Netflix documentary recently that he spoke, and his sister spoke. Everyone has their views on whether they think Barry is guilty or not guilty, but at the end of the day, he was exonerated. So that's the way our system works. So we have to think he is innocent. He's innocent. He was found to be innocent. But Barry's not innocent in general. He has got quite a lot of offences against women, stalking offences. We're going to have a look at those. He's not been an innocent man in general. Do you know what I mean? He has been found responsible for quite a lot of very unsettling things, especially against women. And the reason he's back in the news again is because he's just been charged with some historic sex offences. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So we're going to chat about that. Anyway, first of all, thank you everyone for liking, for subscribing, for watching, for supporting my channel, being a member, for sending Ko-fis, for PayPaling me, sending nice emails, leaving nice messages. Thank you to all of you for any way that you support my channel in a positive way. Thank you so much. And now I want to say hello to my lovely lurkers. My lovely lurkers are the people that don't like to join in the chat. They like to watch the lives, but they don't like to join in the chat. You know, some people don't want to put their head above the parapet, do they? So I want to say hello to you. And of course, hello to replay crew, you people that can't watch live for whatever reason, but you like to watch on catch up. Thank you. And now I'm coming, before I start with this story, this crime story, I'm going to come into the chat and say hello to those of you who are brave enough to venture into the chat. Hey Lily Paulie, hi Bluebell. Yeah, he did call himself that. He also called himself Paul Gadd, which was Gary Glitter, of all people's real name. He's definitely a Walter Mitty character. He's a Walter Mitty character. He's got a lot of mental health issues. He's done a lot of things that are not, and we're going to have a look at the things that he's done. He even was turned up at Buckingham Palace, I think it was, or wherever Prince Charles at the time, who was the prince married to Diana, he turned up there as well. He was a very strange man. I'm sorry, but he was. There's a lot of, there's a lot of sex offences that he was found guilty of. So this man is not, just your average Joe from the street. That doesn't mean to say that he killed Jill Dando. I'm not saying that he did. I'm just saying I'm not convinced that he didn't. But at the end of the day, he's been exonerated, and that's all that matters. We have to abide by our system, whether it's things we agree with or not. If someone's found guilty, whether you believe they're guilty or not, if they're found guilty by a jury, until they're then proven innocent again, like Barry was, we have to abide. That's what our system is there for. Of course, it's a good reason for not supporting the death penalty as well. There's someone like Barry who would have got the death penalty, and then he wouldn't have been able to be exonerated, would he? So yeah, this case brings up a lot of interesting things, but the worst thing, of course, is the fact that Jill Dando, who was really, even though she was famous, she was like a girl next door type, wasn't she? There's no evidence that she had anything in her life apart from reporting on crime because she was on Crime Watch. There's no evidence that there was anything in her lifestyle that was dangerous or, she's like, we felt of her as like almost a girl next door figure. We sort of related to her. She didn't feel like she was someone who was completely different from us. And there she was, she just took her key out to enter in her door, and someone shot her in the head, executed her. So yeah, there's a lot of suppositions that maybe it was something to do with the fact that she was on Crime Watch, or that she was going to expose the BBC, because at the time, of course, it was all, coming out about Jimmy Savile and the BBC and lots of bad things that were happening there. Was she about to expose a PDF ring? Was she about to expose gangsters? There's all sorts of, was it an Eastern European? Did she upset the Eastern Europeans? Did she upset the Russians? The Russians get the blame for everything. So there's the thing is, because nobody has been caught well, apart from Barry, but he's been exonerated. So nobody has been, it currently is held responsible for Jill's murder. It is unsolved as it stands at the moment. You know, conspiracy theories abound. You know, we don't, somebody knows who killed Jill Dando. And I just remember reading that as far as the police were concerned, they felt that Barry George had done it, and they weren't really looking that much further than that, which is probably wrong. I mean, did they just assume that he did it because he has got this checkered history of offences, stalking offences, offences against women? Anyway, we're going to read his sort of, you know, what he has done. I'm going to read that out to you so you can see that, you know, he has done some very bad things at the end of the day, and you might feel that women need to be scared of him. Now, as far as these historic allegations are concerned, oh, sorry, I got through saying hello to everybody. Hi, Angel. Hi, Celia. Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say now. So, yeah, as far as these historic allegations are concerned, you know, I'm always a bit suspicious of historic allegations. I know that things happen, and at the time, sometimes people can't say, you know, for whatever reason, maybe they're too young, they're too scared, can't say what's happened to them, and they only come out, you know, and talk about it later on when they're older. I understand that, but at the end of the day, I do feel a bit for Barry in the way that, because he's now been charged with these offences and it's come out into the public view, but he's entitled to a fair trial just like everybody else. Is he going to get one because of his checkered history? You know, it's difficult, isn't it? But I do think because this happened quite a long time ago, there'll be a lot of people out there who don't even know who he is. So when it comes to the trial and he gets his jury, if he doesn't do a plea deal or whatever, probably a lot of people on the jury, you know, I'm old enough to remember this, but there'll be people in their 40s who maybe don't even know anything about this. Though having said that, it's such a famous case. Jill Dando is probably one of the most famous British unsolved cases. Is it likely that they'll be able to find a jury of people who won't have heard about, you know, Barry's involvement or suspected involvement in the Jill Dando case? So there's a lot to sort of unpack there, isn't there? Anyway, let's see. What am I going to do? Oh, I just want to show the photo of Jill. So you can see, you know, she had, you know, everyone liked, she was one of those people that women liked and men liked because she had this wholesome sort of, I don't know, persona. And of course, being on the Crime Watch series. And if for anybody who doesn't know what Crime Watch is, if you're outside the UK, so that's a monthly programme where they do reconstructions of crimes, try and get leads, etc. And Jill was one of the co-hosts on that. So some speculation that the reason she was murdered may have been to do with that, maybe to do with something, you know, maybe she upset somebody on there, or I mean, this reminds me a bit of the Madeleine McCann case. Will we ever get the truth? Will we ever get the truth of this case? You know, I don't know. If I'm speaking personal opinion, I think Barry might have done this, but I don't know. And as I say, he's been found innocent. So, you know, as far as we have to assume that he didn't do it, don't we? Now then, so what we're going to look at first, let's have a look at the article. We're going to have a look at a Guardian article that's sort of talking about what's happened. So let me make sure that's sharing. Yeah, so this is Barry. Obviously, this all happened quite a long time ago, like the Jill Dando thing. So Barry himself was born in 1960 on the 15th of April. So he's a Taurus, if you're into star signs. 1960. So he'd be 65 now, won't he? And he was found guilty. When was it? What year was it? What year was it that she was murdered? 2000. He was found guilty of Jill Dando's murder, but then he was acquitted in 2008. So he spent 8 years in prison. Miscarriage of justice. Now, he has been married. He was married in 1989 to a lady called Itsuko Toide. And according to her, he was abusive, aggressive, and they were divorced just a year later in 1990. Now, I think she married him for a passport, I think. Anyway, we're going to look at that in a moment. Now, he's had several names. He called himself Paul Gadd, which, as I say, is Gary Glitter's real name. He called himself Thomas Palmer. I don't know who that was. He called himself Steve Majors. And it wasn't Steve Majors, the Bionic Man, or am I? Let's have a look. You know, he's definitely got a lot of problems. Yeah. Steve Majors, that reminds me of the $6 Million Man, or whatever it was, a program. No, it was Lee Majors, wasn't it? It was Lee Majors. So, and then he called himself Barry Bulsara, who was Freddie Mercury's real name. So he's, you know, he's quite unstable. I mean, I think we've got to accept whether he's guilty or not of Jill Dando's murder or of these this new offence that he's been charged with. He isn't he is a little bit unstable with his way. And also, he has been charged many times, apart from the murder of Jill Dando. He has been charged with impersonating a police officer. He's been charged with indecent assault twice. In 1981, 1988, 1990, 1992. He's been charged with attempted RAPE in 1983, assault in 1989, and then Jill's murder in 2000. So in 1980, for impersonating a police officer, he received a fine. In 1981, he received 3 months imprisonment for indecent assault. In 1983, he received 33 months imprisonment for attempted RAPE. And of course, then for the murder of Jill, he received life imprisonment, but that was quashed. So, you know, he's not a saint, this guy. You know, doesn't mean he murdered Jill. But he's done quite, you know, a lot of bad things, and he's been jailed for them, and he wasn't found, you know, not guilty for them. So we have to remember that. Now, that doesn't mean to say that he murdered Jill, and it doesn't mean to say that these new allegations he's guilty of, but he has been guilty of things before. So he's been charged with RAPE and 2 indecent assaults on a teenager in 1987. Now, my first question is, why has this taken so long? You know, why has this taken so long? So he's been charged with RAPE and 2 indecent assaults against a teenager alleged to have happened almost 4 decades ago, police have said. The Metropolitan Police said the alleged offences happened in West London against a 14-year-old girl in September 1987. George, 65, who now lives in County Cork in Ireland, was wrongly convicted of murdering the BBC journalist Jill Dando. He spent 8 years in jail for the 1999 killing before being released in 2008 after a unanimous acquittal. And it was unanimous, you know, so I mean, it's possible that the police jumped on Barry because of his criminal convictions, because he was a bit of a strange sort of guy. Did they jump on him because they were so keen to find somebody for Jill's murder? That's a possibility too. Sometimes the police can be blinkered, can't they? They can get it in their head that somebody is guilty. And, you know, go after them. There's all those things. He is undoubtedly a danger to women, I think. He's a danger to women. Having said that, these are all historic offences. Now, as far as I know, he hasn't done anything since then. He's living there in Ireland. He's living, you know, he's not been, as far as I know, you know, involved in anything else. So that's another thing. I think, do people like him ever stop? You know, maybe they do as they get older. I mean, he's 65 now. Maybe because he was put into the spotlight because of the Jill Dando murder, he's not doing anything else, you know. Do you know what I mean? Or do you think it's strange that he's stopped, you know, as far as we know, since he was released from prison for the Jill Dando murder? As far as we know, he hasn't committed any other offences. These offences are historic offences, don't forget. So this is not something that he's done recently. Oh. So Jill was shot and killed on the doorstep of her home in Fulham, West London, and the case remains unsolved. And Barry George has always denied any responsibility for Dando's death. Well, he's not going to admit to it, really, is he? Now, if you want to see, I did do a video about Jill Dando. I've put it in the description box of this video. So if you want to watch the video that I did about the death of Jill Dando, it's there. So in a statement about the new charges, which were sent to Barry George by post, the Met said the Crown Prosecution Service has authorised the Metropolitan Police Service to charge a man after an investigation by detectives. I feel like the police definitely feel like Barry George is guilty of Jill Dando's death, because they're just not leaving him alone, are they? So the Met has issued a charge and requisition to Barry George, 65, of County Cork, Republic of Ireland, in connection with the following offences: 1 count of RAPE and 2 counts of indecent assault. It is alleged that a 14-year-old girl was sex assaulted on 2 separate occasions between the 6th and 12th of September 1987. The woman is now in her 50s, and the incidents are reported to have taken place in West London. Detective Superintendent Andy Furphy said, "These charges follow an investigation by a team of Met detectives. Specially trained officers continue to support the woman who has come forward." So he's scheduled to appear in Westminster Magistrates Court on the 29th of October. So that's more or less exactly a month away. Lionel Eden, the Chief Crown Prosecutor for the CPS London South, said, "We remind all concerned the proceedings against the suspect are active and he has a right to a fair trial." So that's it. We have to remember that. He's got his right to his fair trial. We recognise there's likely to be considerable interest in this case. However, it's vital that there should be no reporting, commentary or sharing of information online which could in any way prejudice these proceedings. So he's entitled to his fair trial. And, you know, he may not be guilty, but the problem is he has got, you know, he has been found guilty of these sort of offences before. But my question is, you know, why is this just coming out now? It does seem sort of unfair. Barry's being named, and he's already, you know, he's tried to make a new life for himself, I suppose. You know, so you do feel a little bit sorry for him. But having said that, I do feel like this man has been a danger to women. You know, remember this saying that we have, isn't it? It's like once is a sort of, what's the word? Once is a one-off, isn't it? Twice is a coincidence and 3 times is a pattern. And Barry has been in trouble for these kind of things 3 times, at least. So remember Jill's killing, in which she was shot with a single bullet to the head. Now, don't forget, the evidence against Barry was witnesses who said they'd seen him. I think also because he was a bit of a weirdo, like the police found quite a lot of strange things, didn't they, in his flat that we're going to look at in a minute. And also there was some gunshot residue in his pocket, tiny bit. And I think that wasn't tested. I think the police cocked up this case one way or another. I think you could say that they did. I don't know. And, you know, and this part of me thinks, well, were they just looking for, you know, because it was Jill Dando and they weren't getting anywhere and people were saying, why have you not found the killer of Jill Dando? Was he just a convenient patsy? You know, that's a possibility because, you know, being a bit of a strange one doesn't make you a murderer. So, yeah, she was shot with a single bullet to the head at point blank range, and it shocked Britain. It definitely, I think it reverberated around the world, but definitely as far as the UK was concerned, it's one of the most famous crime events, isn't it? Because she was famous, of course, and because she was on Crime Watch, because it's never been solved, because she was just doing an ordinary thing, like, you know, she'd finished work, she'd gone to the shop, she was just letting herself into a house and she was shot in the head on her own doorstep. You know, all those things made this a real, true sort of crime that just, you know, everybody, don't think there'll be many people at the time didn't know about it. So he was first convicted by an Old Bailey jury in 2001, and then in 2007, the Court of Appeal quashed the verdict after hearing new evidence and concluding the murder conviction was unsafe. So he got a retrial in 2008, and a second jury acquitted him of Jill's murder, and he was released from prison. I'm very disappointed with the Guardian for calling her Dando and not using, you know, I always get annoyed irritated about these bloody journalists. Can't use her first name, you know, referring to her as Dando. Just so disrespectful, drives me absolutely mad. Anyway, never mind. So let's hear a bit more about. So on his wiki, he's got a Wikipedia page, and it tells us more about, you know, the circumstances. So no motive could be found, no evidence emerged from criminals or British intelligence of a contract or conspiracy to kill Jill. So they're doing it on Wikipedia as well, calling her Dando. So the police began to reassess evidence that had been set aside at the start of the inquiry, and the circumstantial evidence against Barry George was a single particle of firearm discharge residue, and that speck matched the ammunition used in Jill's murder. So that's why he was convicted. I think also somebody said they'd seen him as well, but so let's hear a little bit about Barry, who was born on the 15th of April 1960 in Hammersmith Hospital, London. He's the youngest of 3 children. This is just his Wikipedia page I'm reading out. So he went to school in Sunningdale, Berkshire, for children with emotional and behavioural difficulties. So it seems like it was spotted early. He went to a boarding school. So it seems like he was, quite early, diagnosed that there was something wrong. He left school without qualifications. Now, this is strange. His only employment that he had was as a messenger at BBC Television Centre. It all comes back to the BBC, doesn't it? And he was on a fixed term contract for 6 months. The job lasted only 5 months. Now, don't forget, this is Wikipedia I'm quoting from, so I'm just telling you the honestly there. So he's been called a lone, obsessive, Walter Mitty type figure for his desire to impersonate famous figures. He adopted several pseudonyms. He started at school, where he used the name Paul Gadd, which was the real name of singer Gary Glitter. That wasn't a good omen, was it? I mean, of course, we have to remember that Gary Glitter, he wasn't always known as a PDF. I mean, I remember liking Gary Glitter when I was young. I remember me and my friends, we went to watch his film at the cinema. There was a film about Gary Glitter. I can't remember what it was called, but it was like one of his concerts or whatever. A lot of people like Gary Glitter. So I suppose that's why he changed his name. When it all came out about Gary Glitter, he probably changed his name. And then in March 1980, he tried to join the Metropolitan Police and he failed. So he was then arrested and charged for impersonating a police officer. He wanted to be a police officer because he'd obtained false warrant cards. So in May 1980, he appeared in court in glam rock clothing and he untruthfully stated his name to be Paul Gadd, Gary Glitter's name. At Kingston Magistrates Court, he was convicted. He was fined £25. In the early 1980s, he appeared in a local newspaper claiming to be the winner of the British Karate Championship, but he was exposed as a fraud by another newspaper. In 1980, he joined the TAs, the Territorial Army, according to Wikipedia, but he was discharged the following year. He then adopted the persona of SAS member Tom Palmer, who was one of the soldiers who ended the 1980 Iranian embassy siege. Then in March and August 1980, he was arrested and charged for indecent assault, and he went to trial on the 2 counts in June 1981. He was acquitted of indecent assault against one woman and convicted of indecent assault against another woman, for which he received a 3-month sentence suspended for 2 years. Using the name Steve Majors, he claimed to be a stuntman, and he convinced a stadium to stage a show in which he would jump over 4 double-decker buses on roller skates. He injured himself attempting this stunt. Then, in January 1983, he was charged with RAPE for a February 1982 essay of a woman in Acton. In March 1983, he was convicted at the Old Bailey. untruthfully again stating his name to be Steve Majors for attempted RAPE in the February 1982 attack, and he served 18 months of a 33-month sentence. On the 10th of January 1983, he had been found in the grounds of Kensington Palace. At that time, it was the home of Prince Charles and Diana, Princess of Wales. He was discovered hiding in the grounds, wearing a balaclava and carrying a poem he had written to Prince Charles. So he's a bit, he's got quite a lot of strange things, hasn't he? He's not a saint. Let's say he's not a saint. Doesn't mean he's a murderer, of course. We've got to remember that. But is this why the police focused in on him? Anyway, then on the 2nd of May 1989 at Fulham Register Office, he married a 35-year-old Japanese student, Itsuko Toide, and she described the marriage as a marriage of convenience, but nonetheless violent and terrifying. After 4 months, she reported to the police that he had assaulted her. On the 29th of October 89, he was arrested and charged, but the case was dropped and did not go to court. The marriage ended in April 1990, so it's less than a year that he was married. In April 90 and again in January 1992, he was arrested and charged with indecent assault, but neither case went to court. And at the time of Dando's murder, or Jill's murder, he was using the pseudonym Barry Bulsara, telling people he was the cousin of Freddie Mercury. And he gave that name after the murder when he contacted various businesses seeking alibi video footage to prove he was present at any of these businesses at the time of the murder. The more I hear about Barry, I do think that he may well have done it. But of course, he's been proven innocent, so what can I say? Just a view that I've got. These actions led to tips from the businesses that brought George, then believed to be George Bulsara, that's what they thought his name was at the time, to the attention of the police unit investigating the murder, though these initial tips, amongst the thousands received in the days immediately following the murder, were not connected as referring to one person and pursued by police until a year after the murder. This is the problem right there, because he used different names and the police didn't join the dots. It wasn't till a year after the murder that they started investigating him. I think in the beginning the police were convinced Jill had been assassinated by, something to do with a Crime Watch thing, and then by the time they realised that maybe that wasn't the case, it was a year on. This man, he's quite a scary man, I think. So, on the 26th of April, that's my dad's birthday. That's my dad's birthday, 26th of April, 1999. Jill was shot dead outside her home. At the time, he lived in a ground floor flat in Crookham Road, Fulham, and he was arrested for a murder on the 25th of May, 2000, following year. And he was charged on the 29th. Now, a search of his apartment had uncovered over 4,000 photos of hundreds of women covertly taken in public by Barry George, along with other photos of well-known TV personalities, females, Karen Keating, Anthea Turner, Fiona Foster and Emma Freud. along with newspaper article cuttings regarding Jill Dando's life and media career. Police also discovered a photo of George wearing a military gas mask while posing with a modified Bruni blank-firing handgun. Now, I don't know if you've seen that photo. See if I can find it. But, it's quite chilling. He's a sick puppy, whichever way you look at it. It was a blank firing pistol, so we have to make that clear. Right, I'm going to download it and show it you. It's really quite creepy, just to warn you. You can see why the police would charge him. At the end of the day, you can see why everything was pointing to him at the time. Just, I feel that the police, it's a shame that they didn't get onto him earlier in the case, because that sort of made everything more complicated. They were so fixed on the fact that they thought Jill had been killed by something to do with Crime Watch or etc. So look, this is the photo. He admitted it was him in the photo. But that wasn't the gun that he's got in his hand. So we need to make clear that the gun that he had in his hand at the time was not a it was a blank firing pistol. So he won't be the only person perhaps who's posed for photos like that just in the privacy of their own home. But gosh, it's really creepy, isn't it? It's very, very creepy. So you can see why the police focused in on him. You can see that. So you can't blame the police for that. He's quite a creepy guy, isn't he? I'm sorry, but he is. So yeah, he admitted it was him in the photo, and he said he purchased the weapon via mail order, but he denied it had been converted to fire live ammunition. Now, of course, because it was a year before he was arrested, he had plenty of time to get rid of that weapon. And don't forget, there was some residue found in his pocket. But of course, it was a year later. There was that one particle of residue found in his pocket that was matched to the weapon that killed Jill Dando. I mean, you've got to think, where did that come from? It was, it might not be much evidence, but it is evidence. Anyway, before his trial for Jill's murder, he was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. And prosecution psychologists studying George concluded he had several different personality disorders: antisocial, histrionic, narcissistic, and possibly paranoid. So yeah, he's not well mentally. Doesn't make him a murderer, of course. Doesn't make him a murderer. I'm taking that picture down. I prefer to look at a picture of Jill, because it's good to remember Jill as well. I'm going to change that to this picture. Jill, it's terrible that nobody's been held properly to justice for the murder of Jill, isn't it? So yeah, as well as somatization and factitious disorders, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, he was said to have epilepsy and have an IQ of 75. However, a prior assessment had found him to be of average intelligence. He was convicted by a majority of 10-1, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment on the 2nd of July 2001. But even at the time, this verdict was considered unsafe. So I'm not going to go through all his appeals, etc., just enough to know that, you know, he was successful in his appeal. In 2007, the Court of Appeal announced the appeal was allowed and the conviction quashed. So this gave him a new trial. So in summary, the reasoning of the court was that at the trial, the prosecution had relied primarily on 4 categories of evidence. One witness who had identified him as being in Jill Dando Street 4.5 hours before the murder. And other witnesses, although they could not pick him out at an identity parade, they saw a man in the street 2 hours before the murder that might have been George. He had also told lies in an interview. He tried to create a false alibi, and then that single particle of firearm discharge. Those were the things that convicted him. It is quite sketchy, isn't it? Really, you know, that no, they need, you know, wasn't loads of it. You know, it was enough to convict him, I suppose. But really, when you look at it, it's not much, is it? I mean, witnesses are always really highly dodgy, aren't they? So the prosecution had called an expert witness whose evidence suggested it was likely that the particle of firearm residue came from a gun fired by George rather than some other source. So, but then later, a forensic scientist said that potentially 1 in 100 people could have gunshot residue on their clothing, picked up from someone else, possibly a hobby shooter or an armed police officer. Sorry, I don't believe that. I think that's a load of rubbish. You really think it's the coincidence of somebody having a little bit of shotgun residue in their pocket and they happen to have, you know, been accused of murder? I'm not having, I don't believe that at all. But anyway, that was what was taken into account. So, yeah, apparently they said it was no more likely that the particle had come from a gun fired by George than it had come from some other source. And that is why his conviction had to be quashed. And then he was retried. He didn't apply for bail. He was kept in custody. And he was found overwhelmingly innocent. So there you go. Yeah. That was it. So he then moved in 2010. He moved to Ireland to be closer than his sister. I don't know if you've seen. If you've got Netflix, there's a good documentary, Who Killed Jill Dando, and both him and his sister talk in that. So he's probably quite well off because he's won damages from tabloid newspapers. You know, the news group, The Sun, the News of the World. He accepted settlements. And then also the Mirror Group newspapers, who then claimed that he had developed an obsession with singer Cheryl and newsreader Kay Burley. I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, he got compensation. He then made a claim for £1.4 million compensation in respect of his wrongful imprisonment. And I don't know if he got that or not, but I expect he got some compensation. And now here we are again. He's being charged, as I say, again. You know, is this guy guilty of these historic charges, or is he just like the prime suspect for everything because he's a little bit, you know, off the wall? I think this picture is chilling, to be honest. I think he's a very scary man, but there you go. You know, what do I know? So, Yeah, Susie, I haven't seen the video of him jumping over the motorcycle, but he injured himself, didn't he? He convinced, he is a Walter Mitty. He convinced people he was a stuntman. He wasn't really a stuntman. And how he convinced that arena to, to allow him to do that, I don't know. Don't know if it be. Let's see if I can see it. I think, whichever way you look at it, he's been a danger to women, whichever way you look at it. And he's been found guilty a couple of times. Doesn't mean to say he's guilty this time. Doesn't mean to say he's guilty of the murder of Jill Dando. But, it's not good, is it? Not good. Let's see. Apparently he didn't try it on a motorcycle. He did it on skates. But anyway, let's have a look at this video. Let's have a look. Let's take that off. Barry George attempts to roller skate over 4 double-decker buses. Let's have a look.
Un brote repentino de piojos, una llamada inesperada del tutor, una caída tonta en bicicleta, un berrinche haciendo los deberes. El día se complica fácil, pero empezarlo de forma sencilla hace que vaya mejor con Ecocesta. Desayunos sanos, ricos y fáciles para toda la familia. Y ahora con sus personajes favoritos de Disney. Porque niños felices, padres felices. Es una fantasía, es Ecocesta.
You haven't tried this, you've no idea what it's going to be like, and you're just going to go out there on Saturday evening and have a go.
The chances are you're going to end up in the hospital.
It's a chance I'll take.
Oh! Oh my God.
Aren't you a nutter?
No. I do stunts every day in my life, and
no, he didn't.
The last 11 years I've not had one accident, so I think
They said in the past 11 years I've only had one accident. He wasn't a stuntman. So he said his name was Steve Majors. I mean, he's a total fantasist, isn't he?
good track record. We're coming down from approximately 60 feet, which is the very top of the ramp, down to about 20 feet, which is the other bottom of the takeoff ramp, clearing 40 feet distance and landing on the other ramp, which is approximately 16 feet.
What speed do you reckon you'll have to achieve to be able to clear it?
We'll be hitting 60 feet, 60 miles an hour. That's moving at 88 feet per second.
So you've never actually done anything like this before?
So he's even got his name on his T-shirt, Steve Majors.
Never in the world. It's never been done.
But haven't you had to go on a mini ramp or anything just to have a practice?
No, not at all.
With a crowd of 5,000 at the Long Eaton Stadium, the stuntman decided to go ahead. In the heavy rain and winds at gale force, I asked him why.
Because I've been planning it for 4 years.
He's been planning it for 4 years, so it's heavy rain, gale force wind, and he's going to do this stunt, and he's not even a stuntman.
I thought about it 4 years ago, training for 4 years.
The chances are you're going to end up in the hospital.
It's a chance I'll take. The weather conditions are very windy up here.
Oh my
I'm a bit
God.
frightened, but confident so far.
I thought you'd wait until Tuesday myself and done it then.
Actually, or Tuesday.
Well, there's another meeting, isn't there? Where they might have evaded then.
If I get halfway down, I slip, it's rough down there. I hope I don't go shoot off the side.
No, you will no chance of that, man. You stay centred.
Don't look like safe for me.
Oh
Can you get me hammer that down somehow?
A hospital check later revealed a fractured femur and a dislocation to his spine. But with the adrenaline and the excitement still pumping, Steve insisted on a final wave to the crowd.
Steve.
You've no idea what it's going to be like,
more
and
time
you're just going to go out there
everything.
on Saturday evening and have a go.
The chances are you're going to end up in the hospital.
It's a chance I'll take.
Aren't you a nutter?
I do stunts every day of my life, and the last 11 years I've not had one accident, so I think that's a good track record. We're coming down from approximately 60 feet, which is the very top of the ramp, down to about 20 feet, which is the other bottom of the takeoff ramp, clearing 40 feet distance and landing on the other ramp, which is approximately 16 feet.
What speed do you reckon you'll have to achieve to be able to clear it?
We'll be hitting 60 feet, 60 miles an hour. That's moving at 88 feet per second.
So you've never actually done anything like this before?
Never in the world. It's never been done.
But haven't you had to go on a mini ramp or anything just to have a practice?
Nope, not at all.
With a crowd of 5,000 at the Long Eaton Stadium, the stuntman decided to go ahead. In the heavy rain and winds at gale force, I asked him why.
Because I've been planning it for 4 years. I thought about it 4 years ago, training for 4 years.
The chances are you're going to end up in the hospital.
It's a chance I'll take. The weather conditions are very windy up here. I'm a bit frightened, but confident so far.
I thought you'd wait till Tuesday myself and done it then.
Why Tuesday?
Well, there's another meeting, isn't there? Well, they might have evaded then.
If I get halfway down, I slip. Just rush down there. I hope I don't go shoot off the side.
No, you will no chance of that, man. You stay centred.
Don't look like safe to me. Can you get me to hammer that down somehow?
I'm not laughing because it's funny.
A hospital check later revealed a fractured femur and a dislocation to his spine. But with the adrenaline and the excitement still pumping, Steve insisted on a final wave to the crowd.
Oh my God, do you know what? Right. It's a crazy world. It is a crazy world full of crazy people. You know, it just shows you it's always been a crazy world. This was years ago. We think it's a crazy world now. But the thing is, now we get to hear about so many different things, don't we, that happen. But it was a crazy world even then. Oh, hang on, something's come on there. It was a crazy world even then, wasn't it? I've got to put up my new crazy world. Crazy world. I'm sorry, just if you didn't laugh, you cried. Crazy world. It's a crazy world we're living in, and it always has been. Always has been. You know, the trouble is now, because we can see what happens all over the world, it feels like the world's crazy, but it's always been crazy. There's always been crazy people. But joking apart, you know, they'll be still on the, new emojis. We've got a crazy world emoji, blue belt, and the sheriff emoji. You know how I like a sheriff. These are new members emojis with that dishy sheriff that was dealing with the Travis Decker case. Oh dear, oh dear. Bye, Susie. See, yeah, it will be the street. This video will still be up under the lives, but also I'll cut it down, like, you know, cut a lot of the waffle out of it and release it as a separate video. I'm finishing now anyway, so oh gosh, so yeah, I haven't had any breakfast. I'm absolutely starving. I'm going to make a nice curry. But anyway, yeah, joking apart, I mean, the important thing is, you know, will Jill ever get her justice? Is Barry the one who killed her? Personally, I think he probably was. And that's just my view. You know, that's my view. I think the police, though, in the beginning, concentrating on, you know, looking for some sort of, I don't know, thinking that she was killed because of her Crime Watch connections, perhaps missed, you know, the chance when they would have had, if they would have known a bit more about Mr. George earlier. So don't forget, he, you know, he stalked a lot of, or he was interested in a lot of famous women, you know, that we saw that, but Jill just lived around the corner from him. Imagine if he found that out. Do you think he saw her one day, realised Jill Dando lives literally just around the corner from him? Do you think that? Or why would he then, you know, looking at it from another way, why would he just shoot her like that? And that gun that he, you know, he had in this horrible photo, now he says it was a gun that didn't fire bullets, but we don't know that because he was not arrested till a year after Jill died, and they found that particle of gunshot residue in his jacket, but the gun itself, they didn't find, did they? So he'd have got rid of that. Because don't get, he had a year to clear up all the evidence, etc. So I don't know, just don't know. I mean, I feel sorry for him in a way because he'll always be associated with the murder. So if he is innocent, that's a shame for him. But you know what? The only people who know, one of them's dead. That's Jill. Well, that's if she even saw him and knew him. But only Barry knows the truth. Him and God. It's between him and God. And, you know, if he is guilty, I would urge him to come clean about it because, you know, when he goes off to the next plane, to the next world, and he meets his maker, whoever he thinks, you know, he needs to sort of confess, really, if he wants to save his soul. If he's guilty, maybe he isn't. Anyway, let me know what you think in comments. Do you think he's guilty? Let me know down below. And please don't forget to subscribe, subscribe. I will keep you up to date with this case. So don't forget, he's only been charged of these new offences. He hasn't been found guilty of them. And just because he has been guilty before of offences of a similar nature does not mean that he's guilty this time. So we have to remember that. We have to give him the benefit of the doubt until he's found guilty. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? There's a lot of crazy stories out there, aren't there? But Jill Dando, it would be nice. Yes, Celia, I do think he did it. It would be nice for Jill's family, for just Jill's memory, wouldn't it? It would be nice to find out for certain, one way or another, who did it. I mean, this, you know, it's possible that he didn't do it, but that's just my view. I think he probably did do it, and I think it was just the length of time that it took the police to catch up with him that made his conviction unsafe. But you know, what do I know? But he's the one who's got to answer for whether he's done it or not to his maker. But at the end of the day, you know, he is a danger to women, in my opinion. Okay, thank you for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Big motorbike coming. And until I see you again, have a great day, or great afternoon, or a great evening, wherever you are in this crazy world. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Take care. Thank you for watching. Love you loads, and may your God go with you. Oh, I've got to put on. Do we have let's have a lively. It's good to have these lively songs at the end, isn't it? Really, because it cheers us up after what's normally been, you know, bit of a, you know, true crime. It's not. Well, we do have a little bit of a laugh, don't we? But you know, it's only because if you didn't laugh, you'd cry. So we're going to put a song on that will make you dance, hopefully. Bye.
Oh, you Vicky Marie, you're so dream, you're so bold. Your YouTube world is the pure